Welcome to the Wisdom Window on Strong Island Radio. The Wisdom Window is your portal to timeless knowledge and understanding. Join us each episode as Maddi and Marianne Franzese examine ancient and current wisdom traditions and apply these teachings to today's unique challenges. So let's get started and welcome your hosts, Maddi and Marianne.
Well, hello and welcome to the Wisdom Window. I'm Maddi and I'm here again with my co-host, Marianne Franzese. Hi, Mare.
Hi, Maddi.
We are so happy to be here again with Joanne Angel Barry Cologne, who we had last week for a wonderful, wonderful session talking about the wisdom of the oracle, talking about cards. And this week we're going to do the wisdom of the crystals. Now, I personally had a wonderful couple of months working with Joanne with crystals. I had some health issues, and I really felt like the work that she does with crystals could become part of my healing process, and it certainly did. It was wonderful, wonderful work. I still have the crystals she recommended. I still work with them because they are more powerful, I think, than many of us give them credit for. And I think in this new world, this new age that we're creating, a lot of people really are searching for alternative means of healing because a lot of what we've known as healthcare doesn't seem very caring at all. And Joanne is very caring, and so are her crystals and her work with crystals. So Joanne, thank you so much for being with us again.
Thank you so much for having me, and I just love that statement you just made about, the medical industry not being so caring.
Right.
Yeah, yes, and crystals are, yes. And what I want to just, open the conversation with, when we talk about crystals can be used as jewelry, which many people do wear, and I think many people are not aware that unless you actually activate and cleanse and charge your crystal for it to do its healing work, all it really is jewelry. And I had a conversation with someone the other day who was wearing this beautiful piece of amethyst, and she has a lot of health issues. And I had asked her, I says, have you ever had that beautiful piece charged? And when you put it on each day, do you set the intention to what you'd like that crystal to do for you? Yeah. And she gave me this blank look on her face and says to me, charge, cleanse, intention? What do you mean? And I had the whole conversation about it in reference yes, right now that's a beautiful piece of jewelry, but that's all it is. It's not really doing anything for you because you haven't really set the intention. And I think that's something that people need to understand, that yes, you could put on a beautiful piece or you can have beautiful crystals around you, but unless you set the intention, cleanse the energy, and charge it to do what it is you want it to do, it's not going to be as powerful as one might think.
So how do you activate, cleanse, and charge?
That's a really good question. I love that you asked. Well, to start off with, to charge the crystal, we want to first cleanse it, because again, wherever we're getting the crystal from, whether we're buying it directly from the store where we're actually getting our hands on it, or we're actually ordering it through the mail, lots of energies go on to the crystal. The crystal is going to absorb the energies. So we want to cleanse the crystal. And the easiest way to cleanse a crystal, so we don't get all caught up in this particular crystal you cleanse this way, this particular crystal you cleanse this way. If you want to know specifically, they can actually just reach out directly to me, and that's with the email, which is healingwithin76@gmail.com. But just for today, the easiest way to cleanse any crystal is with the moon or the sun. And that's just by sitting your crystal out by the window and allowing it to stay there for about 12 to 24 hours so it can get cleansed. Once that process is done, then you take the crystal and you hold it in your non-dominating hand. So if you're right-handed, your non-dominating hand would be left, and if you're left-handed, vice versa. And as you hold it in your hand, you're charging it with your energy. So now you're holding it in your own hand. And then once you've done that for give and take 5 or 10 minutes, then you set the intention to what you want the crystal to do for you. So if it, and it doesn't matter what type of crystal it is, ideally, whatever your intention is. So if it's for healing purposes, you just basically say, with this crystal, as I wear it, it's helping me to heal. Now, if you're looking for it to heal a specific thing, such as if you want to heal relationships or you want to attract more love, you might be wearing a rose quartz, and you set that intention that with this crystal, I am attracting love so I can receive and give. And you just hold it in your hand just for a few minutes so you can feel the energy. And what I mean by feel the energy, you may either start to feel a tingling sensation in your body, or you just might feel some sort of shift taking place. And when that happens, then you can put the crystal on, whether you're wearing it as a necklace or bracelet, or just keeping it close by you or sticking in your bra or pocket. And yes, I said bra.
That's okay. Feel free.
Just in case anybody's wondering, like, yeah, as women, we tend to stick a lot of crystals in our bra if we don't want to wear them as jewelry. If we don't want it to be seen, for that matter.
Right.
And that's just the easiest way to cleanse, charge, and set the intention of activation.
Excellent.
That's wonderful.
You know what I wanted to ask you too? I had heard that if you are using a crystal for healing or any purpose whatsoever, if you have an intention for that particular crystal for you, you don't share it with somebody else. You don't let them touch it. It confuses the energy. How do you feel about that?
Yes and no. And I'm glad you said, how do I feel about that? Because theoretically speaking, people are curious. So, for example, if I'm wearing a piece of a crystal, the average person, especially those who like to touch, they may go to touch it. And if they do, it's not as though I have to turn around and re-cleanse the crystal right away, because reality is, okay, they touched it. But that's also because they probably needed the energy of that crystal. So I don't carry the intention that, well, if someone touches my crystal, it now has bad juju on it. But yes, in theory, when we are setting an intention to a specific crystal, we really do not want everyone's energy on it. But like I said, for me, I allow my crystals to be seen. And if for whatever the reasons are, someone happens to touch it, and my sister's really good for that. She'll see my crystals and she'll say, "Oh, that's so pretty." And right away she'll want to touch. Now what she does is, as she's ready to go to touch, she'll say to me, "Oh, can I touch that?" And my answer right away is, yes, you can, because I feel that crystal is going to help her. And if she needs to touch it, it helps her to connect with it more. And then my hope is that she'll eventually say to me, "Can you get me one of those?" And then I'm like, "Yes, I can. I can get you a whole box. What do you want?"
So if somebody's drawn to they're in a crystal shop, they're drawn to a particular crystal, they decide to buy this crystal. I'll give you a good example from me. I was with a young woman once, and there was a beautiful crystal that she thought it was a quartz crystal, and she was really interested in bringing more abundance into her life, getting her a better job, getting just more abundance in general. And there were several of these crystals, and she wanted me, I was there teaching a course at the time, and she wanted me to pick her crystal for her. And I kept trying to get her to pick her own crystal. And I mean, ultimately, she just wasn't letting go of it. She wanted me to pick it. So I picked the one that I liked, and then told her what I knew about working with crystals, similar to what you've just said, a lot of which I learned from you. So, how do you feel about that? Should somebody pick their own crystal, and then once they have it, if their intention has to do with abundance, or it has to do with get me a better job, what would you say to somebody who wanted to do that?
Okay, so a couple of answers there, because there were a couple of questions there.
Yes.
So to start off with, when someone is in the process of connecting with a crystal, I always really try to get them to pick the crystal that works best for them, as
Right.
opposed to them insisting that I pick it for them. And the reason why is, again, if I pick it for them, I mean, again, you and I have intuitive energy, so we can tap into their energy and decide which is best for them. But by them doing that themselves, they're literally tapping in and using their own intuition to why they were attracted to this crystal to begin with.
Right.
And I think that's really important. And one of the key lessons about crystals is connecting to the crystal that connects to you. And then once they have the crystal, because again, there's thousands, I don't even think there's thousands, there's probably millions of crystals out there. And there's a crystal for everything. And do you need a crystal for everything? Do you need to have an amethyst, a rose quartz, a citrine, a jade? Do you need to have all of those to activate every single thing you want to activate? No. You can literally get one crystal, and for that particular day, you might say, okay, for this day, if it's a matter of activating a new job, more money, health, you can do all of that in that one crystal, because the crystal, there's no limitation to that crystal. It's not like the crystal is going to say, okay, I can only help you set the intention to one thing with this crystal. You need to set an intention with another crystal. Doesn't work that way. A crystal can absorb as much as you want that crystal to absorb for you. So ideally, when I work with clients, I always suggest to them, pick the crystal that talks to you. And whatever that crystal is, that's what they go with. And if they're insisting that I pick it out for them, what I really do, I try to bring it right back to them. How about we pick it together? So I still get them to be a participant in the picking, because it's their crystal.
Yep.
And then by them doing that, they form a relationship with that crystal. And also, too, when we think about connecting with the crystal, it really is about when you go to a store and you buy the crystal, it's really developing a relationship with your crystal before you can even set the intention to the crystal. It's like just using that crystal for a few days just to feel it out and let the crystal like you and you like the crystal. And then after those few days of doing that, then you can start setting the intention to the crystal. There's a whole process when we think about it to crystals and using them for the purpose of their healing properties. And they are beautiful, they're gorgeous crystals, but they have a bigger purpose than just being gorgeous crystals.
Joanne, how did the crystals get their attributes? Like, how did rose quartz become associated with love, or amethyst with peace? Like, is there some kind of method, or is it just ancient?
That's a darn good question, Marianne. And I'm going to be really transparent here and say, I don't have an answer to that question. I'm going to have to research that, because reality of it all is I would just assume, and it's really bad to assume, but I'm going to assume here that there's somebody out there that has done major research, and going back hundreds and thousands of years ago, have come to the conclusion that when they found rose quartz and they connected with it, they realized that, oh wait, you know what? By working with this rose quartz, my heart starts to feel fuller. I feel more love. I feel happier. So because of that research, that's what they came to the conclusion on. Right. Now, whether or not that actually happened that way, who the hell knows?
No, and true, like maybe it is just that, again, that universal wisdom of certain colors have certain frequencies that, give us certain feelings, and in a realm that can be healing, just is this kind of inner wisdom.
Exactly. And when you think about it, going back, let's say hundreds of years ago, we didn't have as much distractions as we have now. So back then it was really easier to, if you found a crystal lying in the dirt somewhere and you picked it up, it was a lot easier to connect with your feelings once you picked that crystal up. Where nowadays it's like we have so many distractions that we really do need to take a moment to connect when you pick this thing up. Or you're in a store and there's thousands of crystals in a store, and your eye or your body goes right to that one crystal, and it's like, okay, so why is it I connected? In fact, I'll share a really funny story. My husband, a couple of years ago, was walking down the street in Manhattan, and he was drawn into this store. Now, in the window of the store, there was no crystals. He was just drawn in. He had no idea why he was being drawn in. And when he walked in, the guy said to him, "Can I help you?" And he looked at the guy and says, "Yeah, I'm looking for a crystal." And the guy looked at him and he says, "Wow, it's so funny you should ask about a crystal, because I received today a huge box of crystals." Now, like I said, there was nothing in the store, nothing in the window to even indicate that this guy sold crystals.
Wow.
So the guy went to the back room and brought out this huge box. And there were, oh my God, I can't tell you how many crystals in this box. And he said to my husband, "Feel free to go through the box and look for whatever it is you're looking for." So my husband, searching through and whatever not, and he pulls out a handful of them. And the guy said to him, "If you'd like, I'll give you the whole box for $50.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness. So that's a deal.
My husband knew right off the back that he was getting a deal, because just 5 crystals alone, or theoretically there was 1 crystal alone that cost more than $50. So he said to the guy, "I'll take it." Called me up and says to me, "I have a surprise for you." I'm like, "Yeah, what's the surprise?" He says, "I'm bringing you home a box of crystals." I'm like, "Well, when you say a box of crystals, how many are we talking?" He goes, "Oh, there's a lot." So he comes home and he takes all the crystals and lays them on the table. And I'm looking at him like, "Oh my God." I'm like, "How much did you spend on these crystals, and why on earth did you buy so many crystals?" He says, "Well, I went in. I didn't know why I was going in. I was being drawn to go into the store. And Lord knows, I mean, like I said, there was 1 crystal there, very tiny. It was actually, I think it was called a green tourmaline, and for the heart chakra, for that matter. And that crystal alone was a $900 piece.
Wow.
And he bought all these crystals for $50. I'm like, I guess the guy had no idea what he was selling.
Man, I'll tell you, I had a very similar, interesting story. Not funny, but definitely interesting. The first year I was in Taos, I went to the town square, and there was a store down. There's like a little alleyway that you could go down then, and I go into this store because it had all kinds of beautiful crystals and artwork, and there was an elder Lakota man working behind the counter. And he was very tall, long dark hair with gray in it. And we started talking, and I know some Lakota people, and we started talking about that. And he just was a very interesting and intense person. Just really, it was a beautiful conversation about many things in the spiritual realm, in this realm. And at the end of our conversation, he gave me a quartz crystal from the caves in Arkansas. And Native people here in the Americas have been going into those caves for a long time. My husband's been there. We have several crystals from there that he dug up and found. But it's been, and up until that point, I had no idea that existed in Native America. Mm-hmm. So now here's the strange part of the story that some of you out there may or may not believe, but my hand to God, as they say. So I go back, I was doing a writing program there, and we had a writing group. So I see the 5 other people in my group, and we're sitting there, I show them the crystal, I tell them about this, and they're like, "Oh, we got to go back there tomorrow." So we go back tomorrow, the next day, and the store isn't there. It's a completely different store. And I am telling you, anybody who's been to Taos can tell you, that it's like not that huge. I mean, it's a big central area of Taos, but it's not that huge that if you walk down every single alleyway, there's not even that many off the square, but I mean, or walk around, I wouldn't see the shop again. Like if I made a mistake about where it was, let's say, you know? Mm-hmm. So not there. It absolutely was not there. He was not there. There was a store there that didn't have the same things in it. And I walked in, and there was a woman working there, and I told her what happened the day before, and she's like, "I have no idea who you're talking about or what you're talking about." And I had the crystal with me. I said, "But he gave me this crystal." And she said, "Well, it couldn't have been this store." So again, we walk around. Now, fortunately for me, the people in my group didn't desert me and think I had gone insane, but it was very, very interesting. And that crystal had so much power to it. It had so, and this was before I had met you, long before met you and worked with you with crystals, but it had so much power. I read a little bit, I let it charge in the moon, I used it for myself all the time, and all I had to do was hold that crystal, and I would relax, I would go into a totally different space. And I had, after a few years, a friend of mine's daughter had gotten very, very ill, very ill. And somehow I just knew that this crystal could help her. She was at my house. She looked at it. She thought it was beautiful. And I knew it could help her. And I gave it to her to use. And she did. Her mother called me and told me that she got better, but the crystal never came back to me. And I thought, well, that's very interesting. It did help her, which is wonderful, but I guess it needed to be with her. But I do find, and especially after working with you with crystals, that they have conditions of their own, like you said. So
you know what I'm thinking is there is a very mystical element to this, right? And as I think about what it can teach us, right, the wisdom that it holds is maybe within each of us, right, we have a center of being that is a crystal.
yeah.
And in order to get to it, we have to enter the cave. And we also have to get past the barrier of the rock to discover it. And how many of us need to have that rock protection because we all absorb energy, right? It's what you started talking about, Joanne, is just this
Definitely.
need to care for the crystal. So if we're thinking that as human beings, we have a crystal inside of us, right? Part of the light that gets reflected through it, then maybe we need to make sure that we make the space to cleanse,
Right.
right? To hold it in
Definitely.
our non-dominant brain
Right.
and more in our heart, and to
Yes.
charge it with that energy, and to sit in the moon and to sit in the sun, and then to activate an intention. And I've heard, the talk of like the crystal children beginning to come onto the earth. And I'm thinking about this part of humanness
Right.
that is about this ability to not just absorb energy, but to take that energy and give it back with this intention that you're talking about, Joanne, right? Is my intention, what is it that I want to activate? Healing, manifestation, reciprocity, whatever it is that we're each called to, that can be like a very concrete metaphor or a way of working with ourselves as crystal beings. I don't know, just kind of popped into
I love
to
that
my-
idea.
my
I
head.
actually think Marianne's onto something.
Yeah, I agree. I totally
I
agree.
do believe she's definitely onto something, because I do believe we do have a crystal within us, and I do believe that when we think about crystals on the overall, over time, I do believe every one of us will be attracted to crystals. Now, when we think about crystals, let's tap into birthstones, because our birthstone is actually a crystal.
Yes.
Every one of them.
Yep.
And I mean, we'll talk about men for just a moment, because I mean, theoretically, you see more women wearing crystals, but men wear them too when they're wearing their jewelry. If they're wearing a bracelet that's got diamonds on it, diamond is a crystal.
Yep.
So we all wear crystals for one reason or another. But again, if we really want the healing properties of the crystal, it's just learning to recognize that we want to connect with it and not just wear it. It's almost the same concept when we think about it, is our relationships that we have.
Yes.
It's setting an intention to the relationship you have with a person,
Yeah.
whether it be a coworker, your significant other, your children, your partner, whatever it is, setting the intention to what you would like to have come out of that relationship, the same concept as the relationship with your crystal. So we can treat our external relationships the same way we treat our actual crystals. There'd be so much healing going on because we'd all be doing the actual healing work of setting the intention of, I want to be in a healthy relationship. I want to receive love. I want to receive joy. I want to receive abundance. And stating that intentions of wanting to receive to, I am receiving love. I am receiving joy. I am receiving abundance. Now you're literally in that space of receiving it. And you're setting the intention. So you're stating, I'm open to having.
Right.
And there's the intention. And now because you're open to having, now the universe, God, whomever we call our higher purpose, our higher self, will then align that energy according to what you set the intention of. Mm-hmm. So we do not have to sit here in a space of the fears and the insecurities and the hatred. We don't have to sit in that, because the only reason why we're sitting in that is that's because that's where our focus is. So we can redirect the focus and set in the intention as we would our crystals, with our relationships. Just imagine what a peaceful world we all live in.
Well, I do love it because I feel like it even brings this conversation to full circle, because we started, right, with Maddi talking about healthcare not being very caring, and the way that you have presented just the care of the crystal has such respect for its inherent possibility for goodness, right? And that all starts with a relationship of care, right? You must care about that power that's inherent within this conductor of light, right? Light moves through it. So I think that is just a beautiful and very important piece to take away, that it really is about infusing this this beautiful gift of the earth with a relationship.
Yes.
Right? It's relational.
Right.
Yes.
And
exactly.
it's tactile, it's visual, it's, as children, we're all attracted to rocks. Then when we see the crystals as children, we're even more attracted to it. There's a reason for that. And one of the reasons that we do this show is so that we expose people to wisdoms that we're not exposed to in the everyday world. And when we're looking at in what's been labeled scientific materialism, or anything that only focuses on the material, what we can prove, what we can show, what we can, no matter how many times it changes, if we only are focused on that, are we really focused on anything that can take us beyond that? And
exactly.
I think that the beautiful thing about working with crystals is just seeing them, just touching them, takes us beyond the normal relationship with the material world.
And even back to your mystical story, Maddi, we do not own them.
Right.
Like, you received this gift of the crystal, which may have been, you were the only transporter of that crystal to that girl, right? You were chosen for that role, and really trusting the divine at play in this kind of sacred work, right?
Yes. Yeah,
so
exactly.
Really very a lot of wisdom in all of this, Maddi.
Yeah. And it's as Marianne also said too. I mean, Maddi was a transporter to that crystal. And when you think about the transporter, we're all transporters. Every one of us are transporting something to another person.
Yes.
Right, even your husband.
Right,
yes,
right.
Yes.
You couldn't put a price on that box of crystals. It was a price that would get him to bring it to you for your healing work.
Right.
Exactly.
So he too was the transporter.
Which is really funny. Yeah, which is really funny because he brought it home to me for me to do the healing work on him. Which was really funny because all those beautiful crystals I got to use, with clients, of course, but primarily I pulled them all out. And I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to work on with you. This is what I'm going to work on with you. So it was really him bringing all these amazing, beautiful pieces of crystals home so I can help him through his process.
That's great.
Right.
And maybe if the guy would have said $150, he wouldn't have brought him home for his own healing, right?
Exactly.
The price was right.
So the number was perfect. And like I said, I don't think the guy knew what he was giving away because he literally gave it away.
Yeah.
True. Very true.
As it should be.
And that's the wonderful thing about this kind of work and the kind of work you do is I think it opens you up to different vibrations, to different perspectives in the world. And that's what we need right now. We need new perspectives, and we need to learn not to just say to people, oh, well, that can't be proven, so it doesn't work. There's,
Exactly.
I can't remember the exact quote, but there's something about how if, and I can't remember who said it, but something about how if this worked for the individual, then it's proven for that individual.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that individual can be lighting your way to something that may work for you. You just have to be open-hearted about it.
Exactly. And when you think about crystals, and I mean, we talk about science and being able to prove the research. I mean, theoretically, and I do this with all my clients, and Maddi can contest because I've done it with her too, is I hand them a crystal and I have them work with the crystal for a period of time.
Right.
Having them set the intention, having them to keep a journal to see from the time they started working with it to the time they finished the time frame, what they experienced from it. And the research is right there that particular crystal actually helped them achieve what that crystal was meant for them to achieve.
Beautiful.
Right.
So that's research right there. It's the science to say, well, yeah, this is a great healing property that's going to help with no side effects. Isn't that something?
Isn't that amazing, right?
Yeah.
And even if you fall back on the old, as scientists often do, well, it was just in your mind. Well, it activated the power of your mind to heal you with something that didn't use side effects. And I can attest to that in my own case.
Yeah, and hey, if my mind is that powerful to help me heal, I'm going with it.
Yeah,
Yes.
you and me both, baby.
Let's not dismiss it.
Okay, my dear, please give us all your contact information again because we're just about out of time.
Excellent, yes. Well, I keep it simple. My best way of reaching me is through healingwithin76@gmail.com. They can also catch me on my TV show, Joanne's Healing Within. That's featured on Sundays at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, and also on Joanne's Cosmic Energy radio show, the first Wednesday every month, also 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And I think that's the best way to get me without overloading their brains with all different places to go to. So again, healingwithin76@gmail.com.
Beautiful.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much, Joanne.
Really, thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here today.
Anytime.
Thank you.
And for all of you out there, check out Strong Island Radio, Strong Island TV. There's a lot of great stuff going on there. And all of the podcasts and all of the shows are up. Once they're recorded, they're up on iTunes, iHeartRadio. They're up everywhere. You can find them on any major platform. So thank you for listening. And once again, thank you, Bobby Lacera, our wonderful producer. And one more time, thanks, Joanne. And we'll see you again, I hope. I hope we have you back again. Everybody have a beautiful, wonderful week.